So today's topics that we're going to be covering are going to be labor in this webinar. So if you were here in the last month's webinar, we covered material, kind of dove deep into detail with the material. We're going to be sort of doing the same thing with labor today. So first, I wanted to just walk through how to create a labor record, kind of what it looks like and what all goes into it. There's going to be, several sections in here, but first we're just going to go with how to create a labor record. So the very first thing you're going to do, you're either going to be inside a bid item or you're going to be in your tables. So I'll do it in the tables first, and then I'll show you how to create a record in the bid item. Okay. So this is our labor table here. We have it separated by group. So it's what classification of work that they are. So is it a laborer, is it an operator, is it a supervisor, is it a truck driver, teamster, so forth. We have the code, which is going to be a shortened version of whatever the description is. It needs to be unique, and I think you have 12 to 13 characters in length here. And then the actual description of what the guy is. So if I needed, let's say, a flagger, for instance, here, I could hit the plus button. And then I know that I'm going to type in LAB for labor, but if you don't know, you can actually click this magnifying glass in here. And that'll take you to the groups. So these are the only groups that I have currently in this webinar database, but I want to say it is a laborer. And then I'll just do FM here for flagman. All right. Now, once you hit enter, it is entered into your database. It's saved into your tables, but you do not have any rates underneath. So that's when you would have to double click and decide what rates and what trades that you want that to relate to. We'll kind of get into trades and hourly wage a little bit later, but I'll just say this is the labor trade, and then we'll say it's like, I don't know, 25 an hour. Okay. And then that's how you create a rate inside of your tables. Okay, now there's a lot more that goes into it. Obviously, we have, benefits and burdens, which specifically relate to the trades. And then we also have a workers' comp rate that we can fill out that relates specifically as well, which we'll cover a little bit later. But overall, that's how you create a labor area in the table. And then transversely, you can actually create one on the fly inside your bid items. So if we are inside this water pipe item, all right, and I needed to create just a new, let's say, excavator operator for whatever reason, or just somebody new, maybe a foreman. I don't think I have a foreman in there. So I need to create a foreman on the fly. So inside your actual bid item, you're going to hit the plus button here. And then I can type in the letter L because I know that I want it to be a labor. But if you don't know, you can always click the down arrow here and then navigate to labor. And then I'm going to want the code to be FORE for foreman. And then I'm going to just hit enter. So then it prompts me to say that the code that you entered does not exist. Well, I know that it doesn't exist because we checked earlier in our tables and it wasn't there. But if you were accidentally trying to type in something else, for instance, like you were trying to type in opper or LAB or anything like that, you can select from your already, you can basically select one from your tables here. Or we can insert it, which is going to be creating a new record. So we're going to insert, and then it's going to ask the same concept. What group is it going to be in? Well, I don't want it to be in the supervisor group or any of these groups. So I'm actually going to create a new group. So the group that I'm going to create is foreman. Okay. So I just hit the plus button here, typed in my code, typed in the description. We're going to hit select. So now it is under the foreman group. And I have a foreman code. So this would just be foreman. You can assign him to a piece of equipment. So for instance, if the, let's see what we got. We got trucks in here. Pickup truck. Yep, there's a foreman truck. So if we wanted to assign a specific piece of equipment to this record, this is how we do it. We would assign it to right here inside for the foreman truck. If you have an identification number that you would like to personally put in there, you don't need that, but you can. And then this is the same exact thing that we did earlier inside our tables, is just come here. If you know what trade you're going to do, you can do that, but we don't have to do that right this second. And then the hourly wage, I'll just say, I don't know, $45. Okay, we'll do a labor trade. All right, and that spits out $45. $45 an hour, $30 in benefits, because I lumped those benefits together, but you could have them broken out. And then we have 35% based on the burdens that we have over here. So it breaks it down to be $26 extra for our burdens, and then out the door is going to be $101.25. All right. So once we close this here, we're done with the cost details. You can just hit OK. And then now it brings in the foreman and the foreman truck like we wanted it to. So it keeps that all buttoned up together. All right. Well, that is the first small little section. I'll give you guys a minute or so to, ask any questions inside the Q&A area. If you don't have any, we'll move on to the next section, which is going to be kind of creating and explaining the differences in the labor areas. And then we'll go on from there. All right. Does not seem like there's any right now, so definitely feel free to go ahead and start putting those in there as we come across anything that you need or want to ask questions on. You can preemptively put some stuff in the Q&A, and then when I get to the pausing section, I'll definitely get those covered for you. All righty. So the next step would be talking about labor areas. So labor areas are super important, especially inside the job. As you guys know, you have to typically create a default for your labor areas here. So you can just pick one. Right now we have two labor areas. We have a private rate and we have a prevailing wage rate. So to create one, it's super easy. You just go into your defaults, labor defaults here, labor areas, and then you can create an additional labor area. So, we could put in whatever you want, depending, let's say, TR for Texas rate, if that's what you want it to be. So now we have three separate areas. That means we have the possibility of having three separate rates for one specific labor guy. So if we were to go to our tables and look into the labor here and click any of them, so I'll just click the foreman. Now there's three separate areas that you could have rates. We have the Texas rate, we have prevailing, and then we have private. Okay. And the reason that it's important is sometimes when you're bidding a job, and then things change, maybe you're bidding it in private, but you want to actually change it to the Texas rate for whatever reason. If you have an updated amount for your rates, and maybe it's like 55 an hour over here, with no benefits and burdens, it's going to be a drastic difference between the 101.25 and then just the $55 out the door. So maybe, that could be something that would come up in a bid where you need to just change the rates. So the way that you could do that is inside your job, you can go job, information and settings, and then go to job default labor areas. So right now we only have one selected. We have that private rate selected. But if I wanted to change it to the prevailing wage rate, I could double click yes here, uncheck that one, and then close. So what that's going to do is try its best basically to push all of the information from our tables that have a prevailing wage rate to this job based on the records that are in here. So I'm going to hit update all because I want to update them. And if they have a prevailing wage rate, it will push that to the area. So before, these were all PR over here. And then notice those that we do have a rate for, so labor, operator, and truck driver, all got changed to the new prevailing wage rate. But the ones that we didn't, so the pipe layer and the supervisor, stay the private rate because we do not have a rate for those inside the system. So if we were to check that out, was it pipe layer? Double click here. We only have a private rate. We don't have any of the other rates. So it will not change to a different area if you do not have a rate for it. Okay. Now that was a little bit of a quick one, but that's specifically explaining labor areas, really just to kind of package it all up in a bow. It's just how many different rates would you need for one specific either labor or operator, any specific classification. How many different rates would you need for them? And that's really what the areas are. You don't have to have them, California rate, Hawaii rate, Texas rate. Could just be, rate 1, rate 2. So any questions on that? I'll give you guys like a minute or so to put any of those in there. And then if we don't have any, then we will move on to the next section. Alrighty, I didn't see anything pop in. In the interest of you guys' time, I'll just go ahead and move forward. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to put those in there. All right, the next section is going to be on labor trades. Okay, that's going to be a little bit more in-depth than the other two. There's a little bit more that comes with that. So trades in general, you're going to find those by navigating to the defaults over here, labor defaults, and then trades. Really, this window is asking you how many different benefit and burden packages do you need to create for your laborers, whether it be a private work and you don't have any benefits, but you do pay your burdens, or whether it be like a prevailing wage where you have to track benefits and burdens, or, and the difference between laborers and operators and foremen. It's just how many different benefits and burden packages would you need to create for your guys. So in this specific scenario, we need just 3 different packages. We have a private package, we have a laborer package, and we have an operator package. So to see those, you just double click in, and then you can choose benefits, you can choose burdens. So we're just going to go benefits here. And then this can be a big, long, lengthy list of different benefits that you can have, or you can have it lumped into just one line item called benefit. But it could be, you could hit a plus button here, and it could be health and welfare, it could be pension, it could be whatever your company does. And then whether it's taxable, which means it gets charged by with the burdens directly. So it's either yes or no. You can change that. And then if we double click in here and then we go to the burden section, these are just examples here. We have FICA, FUTA, general liability insurance, SUTA. You can also just have it say burden if you want to. You don't have to have all this other stuff in there. And then it's going to be based on percentage. So 35% of whatever their base wage is. You can also, when you come in here, make it to where your benefits can be by percentage as well, rather than dollar amount, by selecting yes on here on the outside. So this could be technically 30% if you wanted to set it up by percent rather than by dollar amount. But yeah, I mean, if we look at the different ones, this one doesn't have any benefit here. Maybe we can look at the burdens, and the burden could be different, but these are just the different packages that you can create. Really, they're just labels right now, but those could be, set up however you want. We could call this burden, and maybe this is like 38% here for that specific package. No benefits, and then burdens. Another area that you guys might not use that often are actually going to be the defaults up here at the top. So if we look at our default benefits, this is going to be company-wide. So anytime that you create a new trade, these are going to be what it starts with. So if I open up this benefit package, you'll see these are all of the various things that you could possibly bring in. There's obviously more. Um, and then we have burdens here that look like this. So if I wanted to create a new package, and then we can just call this new trade, it will start with all of those blank benefits that were in the defaults, because that's what I selected as my defaults. And then also, if you noticed in our defaults over here, it was 775 for the percentage here, and it will be the same way inside the new trade if you click and navigate to that. So whatever you have your trade benefits and burden defaults set to are going to be what each of your trades start with. So most of the time it's better to at least get one number that's similar throughout all of them, and then create it in your defaults, and then create your records so that it automatically grabs that information that you need. Saves you a little bit of time and a little bit of work. But I don't know how often you guys are going to need to come in here and update these. Most people probably do it either quarterly or yearly, depending on the changes, if they're like union laborers and stuff like that. But anything that you don't need necessarily, you could just right click or hit the delete button on, and then go ahead and delete those out. All right. And then inside the actual labor table itself, I'll kind of show you what it looks like here. So we have the private rate here with the laborer trade. So it's going to be $45 hourly plus the $30 an hour in the benefit, and then plus 35%, which comes out to be an additional $26. And that's how it comes out to be the 45 plus the 30 plus the 26.25 is going to be 101.25. And then that's based on an 8-hour day. But if I wanted to change it to do, let's see, private, is that what we decided? Yeah. So that one, the private rate, I guess I could have put it down here, but let's just say this is 55. So the private rate one, even though it's in the prevailing wage area, you can have whatever trade that you want. And then it's going to just take 38% of that $55 an hour, and then add those together to be $75.90. So you can have different packages, even based on one person, depending on union rules and where they're located and what kind of job that they're doing. So just kind of keep that in mind. You have the flexibility to create different types of packages even under one specific labor guy. We have different hourly wages, we have different benefits and burdens that you can bring in, and then we also have the the workers' comp package as well that we're going to talk about in just a moment. So I hope that made some sense to you guys for the trades. Please let me know in the Q&A area if you guys have any questions or comments on the trades. And then I'll give you guys a minute or two for that, and then we'll move on to the next area. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next area, which is going to be working and creating and explaining the workers' compensation table here. So that's going to be in your defaults as well. So we're going to go up to the top, we're going to hit defaults, and then we're going to navigate to labor defaults, and then we're going to go to workers' compensation. Okay. So in here, we have 3 separate rates. We have workers' compensation table set up with these 3 different ones. So we have the first one being included in the labor burden, which means it will be 0 because we have included it in either the burden package or benefits as a trade, which you can do if you want to. You don't have to do this standalone, or you can do it individually by having it set up inside the workers' compensation table. So these are really just going to be what the workers' compensation is based on the task that they're completing inside, your bid items. So if let's say that this is our default here, so we gotta click yes. So let's say that this 3% is going to be our default here. If we were to go back to our tables and then look in our labor again under foreman, we'll see that that 3% comes in right there as a part of their hourly base cost. So it'll be that 55 plus that 38% plus the 3%. So it'd actually be like 41, which comes out to be $22.55. And then it comes out to be 77.55. So if we move down here, it will just add 3% to whatever the burden percentage is. So technically, if this was just like 38, it would do the exact same thing as adding that workers' compensation there. Just kind of food for thought on that. Yep. And then you can actually change, each bid item to have its own like workers' compensation rate percentage. So if you're doing, excavation versus earthwork, or excavation versus like clear and grub or something like that, if they have different rates, you can assign different bid items with the different rates. Okie dokie. Well, I'll just keep on rolling through. So this next area is going to be kind of talking about how to change rates, manipulate them, and update them into your job. So let's say that you have already built a job, and this is going to be just a webinar job. You guys are probably pretty used to seeing this water item. It's what I pretty much use every time to go in and explain here. So we already talked about how to change the rates, through the job information and settings window into the job default labor areas. So we've already talked about how to change those rates from, let's say A to B here, from one to the other. Then you could also do what we like to call having multiple selected. So you can have two of them. And what that does is when you close it, it says I can't really update anything because you have multiple selected. But what it does allow you to do is when you click and drag in the pipe layer here, it'll ask which rate that you want. So you can pick whether you want prevailing or whether you want private, a private rate for that specific pipe layer. So you can have multiple, areas under the same umbrella, if you will. But what I mean more so is updating the actual cost of the labor. So if you don't have this information already in the system, how could you update it? So if you just got, an updated amount for your labor, you have a couple different options. So one of the first options is going to be coming straight to the tables and then manually changing these. Well, that could take a little bit, right? You could, go into your tables, open up your foreman, change, what did I bring a foreman in here? Let me see, what rate are we at? Foreman, and then I put it for the private rate. Okay. So if I wanted to change, let's say this prevailing wage rate or this private rate, instead of $45, let's say it's like $85 or something drastic. And then we needed to update this into the new job, right? So I already changed it inside my tables, but if you notice, inside my job, even if I close this, it's not going to change. It does not change automatically. So you would need for it to be updated, right? So the way that you can do that is by going to utilities up here at the top, and then you can go to refresh all detail costs from tables. All right. And then once you click that, you have a whole slew of different options that you can pick from. I'm just going to pick labor here, but you can do like workers' compensation. You can do all of these. You can actually mark all if you wanted to, but I'm just going to update the labor cost. So notice this was 110 right here. It should go up fairly drastically. Okay. Yeah, so it went up to 1142, even though we only had it in there for 2 days. The unit cost did go up, quite dramatically here. And you can do that across the board. So you can actually update like your labor table, your labor guy, your pipe layer, your operator, and then update it all at once using that utility function up there at the top to refresh all detail costs from tables. All that it does is it basically reads your table entries and pushes it to the applicable detail inside your job. So if you have material that you needed to update or equipment and so forth, you could click whatever you wanted and update the cost there. Okay, so you can do it like that. Another way that you can do it is actually inside the table window itself. So if you have the labor table window open here, you can hit actions up at the top and then go to update labor rates throughout active job. That does the exact same thing, but it's specifically for labor. So you can choose whether you only want it to be the one that you selected or if you want it to be all of them. And then it's going to ask if you want to update the workers' compensation table for all of them, and you can, but you can just hit OK. And then what that does is that just reads this and then pushes it to the active job. Now I already updated, so it's not going to change anything. But that's the overall idea is those are kind of the two ways once you go in and you change all of the rates for your labor to update those to your jobs. Another quick way to sort of get some updates is specifically by the trades. So if we go to our defaults, we go to labor defaults and we go to trades, notice down here at the bottom, you can actually update labor wages based on a percentage or a dollar amount. So this would specifically be related to every single labor guy that has the trade of laborers. I can say that I want to either, give them $5 an extra an hour, or I could take away $5 extra an hour, or you could do it by a percentage. So you could say it's 5%, or you could do a negative number here. And then when you hit OK, anything that would be related to that labor trade would get affected. So whether it be by a fixed amount or whether it be by a percentage. Okay, that's kind of a quick and easy way to update specifically if you have, like one trade package. You could kind of carte blanche, either take some money away or update the record, but it would be specifically only for the ones that are related to that trade. So it would not affect a labor guy that does not have the labor trade. If it only had, if we're talking about operators here, they would not have that trade, so it would not be affected. Any questions on that? Feel free to use our Q&A area to, put anything in there that you guys have any questions on. Okay. Oh, I think we do actually have a Q&A. Yes. So Bill actually asked, will this only affect this specific job? Yes. Yeah. So, well, actually, I guess it depends on what you mean by that specifically, but I'll go into a little bit more detail for you. So, this is the only job that I'm currently in right now. It's called the training job with JC. So any update that I push to this job, whether it be through the utilities here or in the tables up here, it only affects this specific job. So if you were to, let's say that you bid a job 5 years ago and you wanted to see what the rates were then, if you open that new job, those rates are going to be the 5 year ago rates. It's not going to be the new updated rates unless you tell it to. But if you do end up actually changing the rates inside your labor table, they will be reflected if you created a new job, right? And you're using the new rates, it will be reflected in there, but it only affects the job that you want it to, basically. It will not change it automatically. It only affects what you push it to. So it would only be the training job with JC. Hopefully that answered your question. All right. And then definitely, by all means, please feel free to continue to add some more questions or comments or anything inside the Q&A. I'm going to move on to the next section, which is probably. Oh, we got a new comment. Let's see. Oh, okay, perfect. Wonderful. it's what I commonly work on the most, and it's actually going to be importing in new rates for your labor guys. So, or just, if you have new rates in general. All right, so this is just an Excel workbook. I created it a little bit before we hopped on here. I just wanted to show you how easy it would be to create this specifically. So the group codes are going to be whatever coding, the groups are going to be. So I'll just say, let's just create like another truck driver here. Maybe it's like a tandem truck driver, or, maybe we could create a pipe layer helper or something. I guess we'll do that. So the code is going to be LAB, because we know from our system over there that the code is going to be whatever, it is in the system. So the description is going to be labor. The labor code is going to be PLH for pipe layer helper, or going to be PLA for assistant. Okay. Hourly wage, we'll just say, I don't know, $25. Trade, this is going to be your trade code. So if you're not sure what trade you want it to be a part of, you can always go back and look. See, oh, I'm not sure, maybe the labor trades here. Okay, so LAB is what we would need to put in there. LAB. And then the labor area code is going to be, what labor area do you want this to apply to? And that's going to be the specific, like if I opened up my tables, which rate would I need to put there? So I could do PR for private rate, or I could do PREV for prevailing wage, or I could do TR for that Texas rate. So I guess I'll just do a PR for a private rate. So I'll just do PR here. All right. So I'm not going to do anything else, but you could absolutely create more of these if you wanted to. I'm actually going to save this one myself, and then I will upload it to the software, and then we will definitely get it in there. So one moment, let me save it to my desktop. Webinar, Excel, import. Named it all capitals so that we'll be able to find it. All right, so once you have that saved, I just went and saved our little document. It's on one line here. So once we saved that on our desktop, we're going to need to use our cloud toolbar next. So that's going to be the down arrow at the very top of your screen. If you guys can see it on mine, there's a couple different options here, but mostly you're going to be using this one and then this one. So either the up arrow or the down arrow. So when you're using our program on the cloud, it's like using a virtual machine. You need to upload your documents from the cloud or from the PC to the cloud. So we can scroll down through here till we find, should be something in all caps yelling at me, Webinar Excel import. I'm gonna hit open. Now that uploads that to the cloud. Once we have that into the cloud, we would just need to go to our tables here and go to labor. And then once you're in your labor table, you can right click and then hit import from Excel. And then now I need to go try to find them. This would be the one that's screaming at me. I can hit open. And then you're going to want to actually make sure that these values match. So we want the group code to be straight across. Same thing with description. Same thing with labor code. Same thing with labor description. If you had an equipment code, you can put in there, because this is all of the things that we can get. We already did labor description, so we're going to do hourly wage here. We're going to do our trade code, do our labor area code, and you don't actually need anything else. You don't have to put in the benefits and burden description, because as long as you put in the trade, it's going to take that into consideration. The only thing that I would highly recommend is, because I created a document that had the header rows, is please go down to rows to import and make sure that you only put it to start on row 2. And that's because the header row does not need to get imported. We just need the actual information itself. So if you hit the up arrow up here, you can view what you're going to be importing. Okay. So I'm just going to hit start import here. And then that created my pipe layer helper. And then if I open up the pipe layer helper It has the labor trade already fixed to it, and it's in the private area, the private rate, and then it was the $25 that I put inside the system. So if you can see it, this is what we created. So the group is going to be laborers. You can't really tell, I guess, the group from this specific area, but that's the group. So we put it in the labor area. This is the labor code. That's what that is. Labor description is what we called it. Hourly wage is $25 an hour. The trade is going to be labor. That's what this is. That gives us the benefits and the burdens here. And then PR is going to be the private rate that we decided to change. If I wanted to say, let's say $35, and I wanted to update that to the Texas rate, we could do that. That's pretty easy. We would just save this. We would have to re-upload it to the cloud. Finding it all the way down to the bottom again. And then once it's uploaded, we would right-click, import from Excel again. Go to the webinar Excel import. Now, I would just get in the habit of always choosing one that has the highest number on it, or you can just rename them. But just for time's sake, I didn't rename it. I'm going to hit open. It already saves everything that you need to. So if we take a look at it, we'll see that it start with the Texas rate now at the hourly wage of $35 an hour. And then you can change that to row 2 again and hit start import. And if you noticed, nothing changed, right? But inside the pipe layer helper, now we have 2 different rates. We have the $25 rate, and then we have the $35 rate. And then you could change those, intermittently, however you need to. But that is a long and the short of how to import quickly your labor rates. And then as you would need those, once you want those, if you wanted them updated to the job, you would just go to actions up at the top and then update throughout the active job. And then you would say, I want it for all, hit OK. And then that would push all of your new rates. Now, we don't have a pipe layer helper in there, but if we did, it would push all of your new rates to the actual job in here. Okay, I will give you guys some time to ask any questions or anything like that in our Q&A section.